It feels like it should be going into Pirates of the Caribbean. Have you ever noticed?
It's got elements of the Pirates of the Caribbean. Welcome one and all to brand new year, inspirational stuff and all that. I feel I should be celebrating more. I'm frankly amazed that I've made it out the other side. It's amazing what happens during the holidays, as they call them, and I often feel like I need another holiday at the other end to cope with the holiday. Today's topic, of course, is to do with modern sales. The full start. Now, explain what you mean by that. I mean, David was talking about like kind of Lent, I guess. You know, you've made some assignations about what you're going to achieve and what you are going to do, and then in the analysis, perhaps a month later on, you look back and you realize you haven't achieved half those goals. What say you, David?
It's interesting you bring in Lent, like a religious thing. It's unlike you.
I only use it to refer to a time of year when people make.
Well, I will see if there is a way that I can, pass you back another religious reference.
Please, let's go for it. Hit me.
Let's have a go. I mean, look, it's the 15th of January, right? If you haven't started your New Year's goals, resolutions, sales period by now, it's a full start. Yeah,
you should be already at least planning.
Come on, when was the first day back at work for people in January? By the 5th of January. I mean, I know some people sort of malingered onwards with their Christmas breaks and stuff, but you know,
right.
We're pretty much 2 weeks in.
I was on it from the third working day back, and I'm proud to say that I've hit so far hit my goal. So far, well, is it? There's
the first day is the hardest, right?
Well, I set an intermediary goal. I wanted to get 2 new clients this month, and I've got 1 new client this month. So to me, that means I'm halfway there. But the obstacles in front of me are quite interesting. To do with not the people getting windfalls or achieving things I hadn't imagined, or stuff happening to them that I have no control over, and then presenting me with do you mind if we pause for X amount of time? And that is fine. It's just I then have to change my goal, don't I? I have to change my direction. So 2 this month. I'm trying to target 4. You know, it's that kind of thing. But no, I know a lot of people who got right from the get-go were already in it, but not necessarily planning. They were kind of like going, must work hard.
Well, I mean, look, if you don't have goals, you don't know how well you're doing. In any case, I mean, you know, there's a whole science behind, you know, writing your objectives, you know, buying into your own objectives, committing to your own objectives. But however people have come to that, you know, January is the beginning of a year. It's in sales quite often the beginning of a new sales period, even if it's just a quarter. You know, but some people do make New Year's resolutions or, you know, whatever. But this isn't necessarily for this time of year. I've only put it in now because it struck me after several conversations with people in the last week. When they meant to do something but didn't. All right, so this will happen all the way through the year. When people mean to do something, they promise themselves they're going to do it. They plan how they're going to do it. They set everything up, but for some reason or another, they just haven't done it. And it can be a couple of weeks before. Well, it has been a couple of weeks. And one, I think, no, in a couple there was after a week already. All right, so the rest have all been in the last few days. So by this stage, I've found that they're often beating themselves up. And so really the first thing to stop that cycle is, here, let me put in a religious reference for you, Gareth.
Go on.
Right, my first one. So it's the be kind to yourself, and it goes like this. If I am not for myself, Who will be for me?
Well, there's a lot to be said for that, because if you it's
That was
go on,
a
go on.
Rabbi Hillel. Pretty
Very
sure
nice.
Rabbi Hillel.
Very nice. But he has a point. If you've got to love what you're doing, otherwise, how can you love what anybody else is doing?
I mean, not everything that we do we love, but there's the grind element of most jobs. The story I tell for that is that I wanted to plant fruit trees in my garden, and so I committed to 2 years of digging the horrible ground in the place where those trees were going to. 2 years. I mean, digging, it's not the most creative part of gardening, but I got into it. Did
it become your mantra, did it?
Well, I mean, it is a personal mantra for me. And the trees are thriving in wonderful soil.
So you regenerated some terrible soil by digging, turn it over, introducing compost, etc., and now you've got
over a 2-year period.
Have they borne fruit?
Tons.
Oh goodness.
Well, the cherry trees have.
All right, right, yeah. Love a cherry. All right, so what you're saying is that you can overall love what you're doing, but not necessarily
loving the person. I'm talking about loving the person. Yeah, try and find a way to be your own fan. Appreciate yourself. Whatever age you've got to that age. Yeah, the fact that you are here, you are in enough of one piece to be able to be here. So, you have more to give. If you're alive today, chances are you'll be alive tomorrow. So there's more opportunity to contribute to the world. So that is really the first thing. I think there's also a time, to do the reflection. What is it that stopped me doing it? I know that you had that whole rationale that you went to lengths to describe, where it was other people's fault, which is fine.
It's not fault. It's when there are circumstances that you haven't prepared for. It means you have to then adjust your goals.
Okay. A question for people to ask themselves, I ask myself this as well, is that particular situation common? Is this a regular thing for you, right? And if it is, do a little bit of self-reflection to discover why you have these false starts. Yeah, invest in that question. Recruit other people, professionals, to help you figure it out. Yeah, there's work to be done. We in the green room beforehand, we were discussing your background image. Yeah, the cogs. Yeah, Gareth is very much a steampunk aesthetic. But it's a metaphor, really, that image for your brain, our brains. Yeah, and the cogs have to work perfectly for it to be normal.
Yes,
but
it can
figure out which one it is, and then you can make adjustments, accommodations, and that sort of thing.
But to extend that metaphor, sometimes even if the machine is well oiled and everything working together, it can take just one little thing to catch in the cog, and the whole machine comes to a grinding stop.
So if it's something that happens more than once, invest some effort into finding out why. Something that I personally have found very useful is getting myself an accountability partner. Yeah,
right.
No one is an island, and if you can find somebody who will who wants the same things as you to achieve their goals with some accountability, and you want that person not necessarily to be somebody that close to you.
So okay, let's
care too much.
Can we define the kind of person who would make an ideal accountability partner?
Well, I think it just depends on. I don't know. I try to find people with goals that have got similar timestamps. Yeah. Okay. So for me, I like it. So those parts of accountability happen at a similar time to each other. Yeah. Otherwise, you're going to be breaking down goals just to sort of try and fit them in with each other.
Does it work if they are a person in the same kind of business as you?
So your competitors?
Well, yes, but frenemies.
I think it would probably help, and certainly the person I'm spending the most time with at the moment on this, a very dear friend of mine, an incredible professional, pretty famous actually. We share a similar customer base. Yeah,
Right.
so we're providing different things, but to a similar customer base, which is quite a handy thing to have a close relationship with people who are providing services for a similar customer base, because you can become quite good referral partners that way. I invest in my relationships in general, but those are the ones in work that are the most valuable.
All right.
Okay. So that is another thing, the accountability partner, somebody to share your own goals with, and who will on a Monday morning say, yo, how did last week go? Did you do those things that you told me you would do last week?
Yeah, but I think it's important. A lot of people then beat themselves up and then potentially end up trying to do something to self-soothe. And then before you know it, they've completely gone off piste and are doing something that's completely irrelevant, not moving themselves forward, but absorbing themselves into...
Sure. And that might come out from the bits of the self-discovery, the self-reflection, to find out, what it is about you that might make you susceptible to those sorts of things. And then, you have all the usual, stuff that everybody knows about already and probably doesn't do, like, breaking down your goals into realistic mini goals. When I've done that, and I think this is pretty well established, is to do the easy ones first. Yeah, get the payoff first, and that helps you get into the good habits. And
I actually do something slightly different. I do one easy one first and use that as kind of like the juice to help me do one of the harder ones. And then I do another easy one to kind of reward myself for having got through that one. And then I do a hard one. So I try and do that. Or I do the one that gives me the biggest dopamine hit up front.
Yeah.
And then I attack something I've been putting off for, I don't know, for a while, because I'm slightly scared of doing it, or I don't want to face it, or whatever it is. And then I just try and make it happen.
Yeah. Specifically in sales, we are very, very lucky in this part of our roles in this profession, in that it's one of the easiest to measure. Yeah, it's easy to measure actual closed deals. It's easy to measure people, your sales opportunities going through the pipeline. It's easy to measure your conversions of leads and referrals into qualified sales opportunities. Yeah, there are a few things that you can measure. Activities, easy to measure. We can count these things. It's not like some other, marketing, for example. I know that there's stuff in marketing you can count, but it takes ages.
It's very hard, and usually you can usually only tell the efficacy of something after it's happened, not during.
Not during. So we're lucky that we have those easy measures. It's also very exposing, and so people that have been at it for a while have had to develop a level of resilience. So use those measures, break them down, which is the usual advice. I struggle with that. But certainly the other steps, I think, will be ones that people are less likely to have heard of. Right. There you go.
Well, look, I'm going to invite our dear friend David to summarize in a second. But before I do that, I want to thank all of you for coming back to join us again after the new year. I know it's all been a bit relaxed, and we didn't do a session the week before, but now we're back. And in full force, and I hope you look forward to many more interesting discussions. So before we go, David, just give us a quick summary.
Yes, so the full start, if by now 2 weeks later after committing to starting something you haven't done it, it is a full start. But be kind to yourself. If I'm not for myself, then who will be for me? We've got to try to find ways to be our own fan, and also try to discover what it is about us that might make us susceptible to these false starts, if it is something that is quite common.
I love that. I love that. Yes. It's finding out something about ourselves, and it probably isn't negative. It's just probably you're prioritizing.
It just is. Get an accountability partner. Find somebody who is not that close to you, but not that distant to you. Perhaps somebody who shares a similar customer base to you, so they kind of know what it's like. And perhaps somebody whose goals can be broken down into similar intervals to your own as well. And then, all of the other usual stuff.
All right.
As many goals and whatnot.
It just remains for me to say thank you so much, David, for taking the time out today to help other people in getting their shit together and making sure that this 2025 is successful and fruitful and enjoyable. I think you've got to enjoy this year as well. So until next time, I wish you all well. Keep your feet on the ground, keep reaching for the stars, and try and look after your mental health. Bye-bye now.
Ciao, ciao.